Welcome to today's deep dive. We are really excited to have you with us today.
Yeah, absolutely. Glad you're here.
So, today's mission, we are diving into the June 2026 MindSource newsletter.
Right.
And I know, a state agency newsletter might sound a little dry at first
Just
glance,
a little
right?
bit.
But if you actually peel back the layers of this document, it's a fascinating blueprint. It's really the real-time instruction manual for how a society tries to build a safety net for some of its, most vulnerable and most resilient members.
It really isn't. We've got a great mix of sources today to walk you through. We're looking at, well, the clinical facts about brain trauma, obviously, but also these massive state administrative shifts, community roadshows, and this is my favorite part, some deeply personal survivor poetry and children's books.
Yeah, that part is so powerful. So our mission for you today is to connect the dots, basically, to take this state-level bureaucracy and tie it directly to the deeply personal daily realities of living with a brain injury in Colorado. We want to unpack what all these updates actually mean for individuals, for caregivers, and just, the community at large.
Exactly. So where should we jump in?
Let's start with the human element,
Yeah.
because to really understand the policy, you have to understand the medical reality first.
Right, that grounds the whole conversation.
Right. And the newsletter makes a point to highlight that June is PTSD Awareness Month, post-traumatic stress disorder.
Yes.
And they really emphasize this massive overlap between traumatic brain injury, or TBI, and PTSD, which, I mean, you stop and think about it, it makes totally sense. Brain injuries usually happen during really traumatic events.
Oh, absolutely. Think about a severe car crash or, a really bad fall or a physical assault. The human body is experiencing two entirely distinct types of trauma at the exact same time. Your brain is physically subjected to kinetic force, right? It impacts the skull, and that causes structural neurological damage. That is the TBI.
Right. The physical hardware is damaged.
Exactly. But at the exact same time, your mind is subjected to a terrifying, life-threatening experience, and that kicks off the psychological trauma response, the PTSD.
And what's so wild in the sources is how the symptoms for both of these conditions mirror each other almost perfectly.
It's a diagnostic nightmare.
It really is.
Yeah,
They
oh,
list
yeah.
them out right.
Yeah.
Trouble sleeping, feeling sudden flashes of anger, or just being upset easily, having a hard time concentrating or remembering things, and then, of course, anxiety and depression.
Yeah, in clinical terms, we call this a diagnostic masking effect. Because those outward symptoms are so tangled up, it's just incredibly difficult for a doctor to untangle what is, physical structural damage and what is just a hyperactive nervous system trapped in a trauma response.
It's like two different overlapping radio frequencies causing the exact same static on your dial.
Oh, that's a perfect way to put it.
But, okay, let me push back on that for a second. Let me play devil's advocate.
Go for it.
If the symptoms, like the bad sleep and the anger, if they look exactly the same from the outside,
Yeah.
why does it actually matter if the doctors figure out which one is causing it? Doesn't the patient just need help sleeping either way?
Well, it matters immensely. And this goes to the core of getting the right targeted care. Because the treatment for that symptom static you mentioned, it's completely different depending on the source.
Oh, so.
So if a medical team only sees the psychological side, the PTSD, they're probably going to prescribe like exposure therapy or cognitive behavioral interventions.
Okay.
But a brain that is recovering from physical trauma from a TBI, it severely lacks cognitive stamina. So asking an undiagnosed TBI patient to do rigorous exposure therapy is, well, it's like asking a computer with a damaged hard drive to run this massive software update.
Oh, wow. It'll just crash.
It'll crash. It leads to extreme frustration, burnout, and honestly, a worsening of symptoms. But on the flip side, if you only treat the TBI with cognitive rest and ignore the psychological trauma.
The person is still trapped in that panic mode.
Exactly. The nervous system thinks it's still in danger. It's flooded with cortisol, which actively stops the physical brain from healing. You really have to treat both.
Which is why MindSource is so adamant about recommending the Brainline website in the newsletter. It's this dedicated resource just for families trying to navigate that specific intersection.
Right. But obviously, untangling that diagnosis is almost impossible if the initial state screenings are basically a cognitive barrier themselves.
Yes, exactly. Which leads us right into the state's updated screening tools. Because the transition from clinical reality to bureaucratic reality is like where everyone falls through the cracks.
Unfortunately, yeah, that is often the case.
So the state has this tool called OBS. It's OBISS, the Colorado Online Brain Injury Screening and Support System. And you have to make sure you pronounce it OBIS.
OPIS, right? Good to know.
Yeah. So effective June 1st, 2026, OBI is updating its introductory questions. The whole goal is to get users to the right tip sheets faster, bypassing the irrelevant stuff.
Which is huge, because if you think about those symptoms we just talked about,
Mhm.
fatigue, memory issues, trouble concentrating, a clunky, text-heavy online form isn't just annoying, it's an actual wall.
Right. If your executive functioning is compromised, a bad web form might as well be locked.
Exactly. So streamlining those questions reduces the cognitive load and hopefully means more people actually complete the screening and get help.
And speaking of structural help, there is a massive shift happening with Stool support.
This is a really big deal.
Huge.
Yeah.
As of July 1st, 2026, the Administration of School Brain Injury Support Services is moving. It's leaving the Colorado Department of Education, the CDE,
And moving too.
right into the MindSource Brain Injury Network, which is under the Colorado Department of Human Services, the CDHS.
Now, for someone outside of state government, a department change sounds like, just trivial paperwork. Who cares, right?
Alphabet soup.
But this is a fundamental administrative pivot. Before, they were operating across two separate massive bureaucracies through an interagency agreement. And that just creates friction.
Right. Though we should definitely pause here and reassure anyone listening. If you have a youth with an individualized education plan, an IEP, the newsletter explicitly states they will see absolutely uninterrupted school-based support.
Yes, that is so important. The ground level help in the classroom is not changing.
It's kind of like changing the general contractor on a house build.
Okay, I like that.
The carpenters and the electricians, which are the IEP support staff, they are still showing up, doing their jobs uninterrupted. But the management structure at the top, the entity signing the permits, that has been streamlined.
That's a great analogy because the reason for the move is compliance with a specific state statute, Section 26(1)301 CRS. It legally makes CDHS the lead state agency managing the system.
So they are the experts, let them run it.
Exactly. Let the people with the deepest clinical expertise directly oversee the system.
Okay, but again, devil's advocate here.
Bring it on.
Whenever a government agency moves a program from one giant department to another, panic sets in. Things fall through the cracks. Phones go dead. How is MindSource trying to prevent that panic for parents who are already overwhelmed?
Well, through communication, their strategy is extremely proactive. They are actively messaging families and schools before that July 1st deadline to say, look, if you need broad special ed support, you still call the Department of Education. But if you need technical assistance specifically for a brain injury protocol, call MindSource.
Setting clear boundaries so people aren't bouncing between call centers.
Right. They are trying to preempt the chaos.
Which is great. But, going from state-level administration to the real world, we have to look at how these services actually reach people physically and financially. Because you can have the best website in the world, but it doesn't matter if nobody can access it.
That's the geography of care. You have to meet people where they are.
So let's talk about the Medicaid changes first. On June 2, HCPF Healthcare Policy and Financing hosted this major webinar regarding new federal rules for Health First Colorado.
And this is a significant shift.
It really is. Now, we are presenting this neutrally, just as a factual update, but basically, members are going to be required to report their work, school, or volunteer hours to keep their coverage.
Right, to maintain their Medicaid.
And the state is trying to make it accessible. They noted Spanish and ASL availability for the webinar. But I want to come back to the burden of that in a second. First, let's talk about physical outreach. The 988 Colorado Mental Health Line is doing a roadshow.
I love this concept.
It's so cool. They are literally taking their message to rural areas. Far Northeast Plains in June, the San Luis Valley in July, Northwest Mountains in late July, down to the Four Corners in August.
Because 988 is the mental health and suicide prevention dial code, right? But just having a phone number isn't enough.
It's like a grassroots political campaign, but for mental health. They are going door to door instead of just sitting back and waiting for people to call them.
Which is brilliant because rural isolation makes everything harder. The broadband might be bad for telehealth, the clinics are far away. You have to build physical trust.
And speaking of the physical environment, the newsletter also highlighted Cedar Root Co-housing.
Oh, the Arvada project.
Yes, this future neighborhood planned in Arvada, designed for all ages and abilities. It's got these shared common spaces. And on top of that, Disability Pride Day is coming up on July 18 in Denver at Atlantis Community Inc. with this whole CDOO passport for events.
There's just so much community activation happening.
There is. Plus, the National Academy Survey is due June 30. The State Independent Living Council, the SILC, has open board seats.
It's a lot.
It is a lot. And that's actually my question. With so many moving pieces, Medicaid work reporting, 988 roadshows, surveys, board seats, is there a risk of bureaucratic overload for someone who is already, as we established, struggling with cognitive issues?
Well, yes, the risk is always there, but you have to synthesize why multiple touch points are necessary in the first place. Access isn't a monolith.
What do you mean?
You can't just rely on a website. A website doesn't help someone in the San Luis Valley without internet. That's why you need physical roadshows. And a roadshow doesn't help someone who needs daily integrated support. That's why you need things like the Cedar Root co-housing.
I see.
Right, and you need webinars with ASL for the policy changes. You have to cast a wide, varied net to catch people where they naturally are, rather than forcing them to navigate a single, overwhelming bottleneck.
That makes a ton of sense. You're building different ramps for different needs.
Exactly.
Okay, so we've talked a lot about the system, the bureaucracy, the safety net. But the real heart of this newsletter, honestly, is the people navigating it.
The survivor stories.
Yes. How survivors are processing and sharing their experiences. And the sources gave us some amazing examples, like Brian Hamilton. He survived a severe car crash when he was 24, and he wrote a children's book called Smarty and Friends.
To teach kids about protecting their brains.
Right. And then there's the YouTube poetry reading When Our Silence Speaks by Jules Bryant and Darius Woods from the Colorado Advisory Council.
Which is just incredibly moving.
It really is. Even MindSource director Rushan Nauer did an interview recently on the mental health crisis we overlook. And the state is currently putting out a call for survivor quotes for the new Colorado Brain Injury Support Guide.
They really want the community's voice front and center.
And they are backing it up with funding. The Brain Injury Association of America and the Colorado Health Foundation both have grants available due June 15. So there's money there to help people tell these stories.
It's empowering.
It is. It's like they're taking a sterile medical chart and turning it into a vibrant piece of art. Right. They take this awful trauma and translate it so the next generation doesn't have to suffer the same way.
It's a beautiful way to frame it.
But, okay, let me be cynical for just 1 second. Does art and poetry actually move the needle on public health policy? Or is it just like a nice feel-good addition to put at the bottom of a newsletter?
It absolutely moves the needle. Let's connect this back to the very beginning of our deep dive. Remember that diagnostic static we talked about?
Right.
The overlap between TBI and PTSD?
Yeah, the overlapping radio frequencies.
Right. Clinical data like pie charts and spreadsheets often completely fails to capture the reality of those invisible, overlapping cognitive symptoms. A spreadsheet can say 50% of people experience fatigue.
But it doesn't make you feel it.
Exactly. But a poem or a children's book, it articulates that invisible reality. It bridges the empathy gap for policymakers. When a legislator actually understands the human weight of that fatigue, they draft better, more humane policy. The art provides the context that makes the policy happen.
Wow, okay. That is a fantastic point. Art isn't the decoration, it's the foundation of the empathy. Well, let's briefly recap the journey we've been on today. We started by understanding that massive TBI and PTSD overlap. Then we moved into the administrative side with the OBIS update and the school transitions under MindSource.
We covered a lot of ground.
We really did. We went out into the community with the 988 roadshows and the Medicaid updates, and finally brought it all home with the power of survivor poetry. So, as requested by the original newsletter, we're going to close this out with a brief, verbatim-inspired message from MindSource themselves.
Sounds good.
Before we go, we want to remind you that you can support this vital work. The Brain Injury Trust Fund takes donations. If you want to support our work, you can send a check to the Colorado Brain Injury Trust Fund, care of CDHS MindSource, 1575 Sherman Street, Denver, Colorado, 80203.
And if you need help, reach out to the Brain Injury Association of Colorado for client services, support groups, and referrals.
Finally, if you're a survivor, they want to hear your story. You can email them at cdhsmindsource@state.co.us.
And just to leave you with one final thought to ponder today, we talk so much about invisible injuries. When we look at a physical injury, like a broken leg, we immediately build wheelchair ramps. We modify our physical environments without question. What would our society look like if we treated cognitive accessibility? Giving people time, giving them grace, and simplifying our structural support with that exact same urgency.
What a question to end on. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive, everyone. See you next time.